5 years had passed since the Void Reaper War ended. The galaxy was slowly rebuilding, but it was a very different place. The old Galactic Council still existed, but it was weak and divided. Many species had left to form their own alliances. Others had simply retreated to their home systems, too damaged to trust anyone again. Ambassador Kang Minho stood once more in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime. The station itself showed signs of the war: patched hull plates, flickering lights, and empty sections that had never been repaired. The meeting hall that once held thousands of representatives now had barely 200. But this time, Minho was not there as a supplicant. He wore the uniform of the Human Federation, the new government that had emerged from the refugee worlds and hidden colonies. Behind him stood Captain Song Minji, now Admiral of the Federation Fleet, and Dr. Yoon Hana, whose hair was silver with age, but whose mind was still sharp. Chancellor Breck, one of the few original council members who had survived the war, approached them with something that might have been humility. His blue skin was scarred from battle, and 2 of his forearms were mechanical replacements. "Ambassador Minho," he said quietly. "Thank you for coming." "Chancellor," Minho replied with a polite nod. There was no anger in his voice anymore, just a calm professionalism. "You said this was important." The surviving council members had requested this meeting for months. The galaxy was falling apart without strong leadership, and everyone knew that humanity had become the most powerful force in known space. "We want to offer you something," Breck said, gesturing toward the speaker's platform. "A permanent seat on the council, full voting rights, veto power over any decision, equal status with the founding species." It was everything the aliens had refused to give humanity 30 years earlier. Too little, too late. Minho smiled, and it was not a cruel smile, just tired. "Chancellor, do you remember what I told this council 5 years ago? You said humanity would walk alone," Breck replied, "and that is what we have done." Minho gestured to Admiral Song. "Please show them the current situation." A holographic display appeared in the center of the hall, showing the galaxy as it existed now. The Human Federation controlled a quarter of all inhabited systems, not through conquest but through voluntary alliance. Dozens of species had chosen to join humanity rather than remain with the weakened council. "The Altarians came to us after their home system was destroyed," Admiral Song explained. "We gave them 3 worlds to rebuild their civilization. The Procyons joined us when the council could no longer protect their trade routes. We made them equal partners in our merchant fleet." The display showed thriving human worlds, bustling trade networks, and fleets of ships using technology that made the old council vessels look like toys from a museum. "The Centauri Collective asked to become our allies after we helped them fight off pirate raids," Dr. Hana added. "We shared our medical technology and helped them cure the plague that was killing their children." Species after species was shown joining the Human Federation, not as subjects but as equals. It was everything the old council claimed to represent but had never actually practiced. "You want to know the difference?" Minho asked, his voice carrying clearly through the half-empty hall. "When species come to us for help, we don't ask them to give up their independence. We don't vote to limit their growth. We treat them as partners, not pets." Empress Vala, her stone body still cracked from the war, spoke up. "But without unity, the galaxy will tear itself apart. We need central leadership." "The galaxy has central leadership," Admiral Song replied. "Just not the leadership you're used to." The holographic display changed to show the current political situation. The Human Federation was the largest single power, but it was surrounded by smaller alliances and independent systems that all maintained friendly relations with humanity. "The Rigel Republic trades freely with our worlds. The Vegan Alliance shares research with our scientists. The Wolfpack Confederacy patrols the Outer Rim alongside our fleets, all without a single controlling government telling them what they can and cannot do." It was a new kind of galactic order, decentralized, voluntary, and based on mutual respect rather than imposed authority. Commander Zeth, now leading the remnants of the war clans, looked angry. "And what happens when a new threat emerges? Who coordinates the defense?" "The same people who stopped the Void Reapers," Dr. Hana replied calmly. The species that choose to work together, not because some council forces them to, but because they want to protect what they've built. The silence in the hall was deafening. The aliens were beginning to understand that the galaxy had moved beyond them. We appreciate the offer, Minho said finally, but the Human Federation has no interest in joining the Galactic Council. The words hit the remaining council members like a physical blow. Without humanity, they knew the council would eventually fade into irrelevance. However, Minho continued, we are willing to establish diplomatic relations, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts with individual species who are interested, but as equals, not as members of your organization. He paused and looked around the hall at the faces of beings who had once thought humans were primitive children. The council had its chance to be what it claimed to be, a partnership of equals working together for the good of all. Instead, you chose to be an empire with yourselves at the top and everyone else serving your interests. The platform beneath his feet was the same one where he had announced humanity's withdrawal 5 years earlier. But everything else had changed. Humanity tried to work within your system for 30 years. We followed your rules, respected your authority, and died in your wars. All we asked for in return was to be treated with the same respect you gave each other. His voice grew stronger, carrying the weight of decades of frustration and disappointment. You could have had humanity as partners. Instead, you chose to make us your enemies, not through hatred or violence, but through indifference and condescension. Dr. Hana stepped forward. She was nearly 90 years old now, but her voice was still clear and strong. I have spent my entire career studying alien civilizations. I learned your languages, studied your cultures, and worked alongside your greatest minds. I wanted to believe that different species could truly work together as equals. She looked directly at the beings she had once called colleagues. The council taught me that cooperation is only possible when everyone involved believes they have something to learn from each other. You never believed you could learn anything from humanity. That was your greatest mistake. The meeting ended without ceremony. There were no angry words or dramatic gestures. The humans simply left, returning to their ship and their own affairs. Within a year, 3 more species withdrew from the Galactic Council to join the Human Federation. Within 5 years, the Council controlled less than a third of the galaxy's inhabited systems. Ambassador Minho, now in his 70s, stood on the observation deck of the exploration ship New Horizons as it prepared to launch toward the galactic rim. Humanity was expanding again, not through conquest but through exploration and settlement. New worlds, new possibilities, new species to meet and work with as equals. Dr. Yoon Hana had passed away the year before, but her legacy lived on in the thousands of scientists who continued her work. The galaxy was full of mysteries to explore and wonders to discover. Behind them, the old core world struggled to maintain their fading influence. Some species still clung to the council, hoping it would somehow return to its former power. Others had learned the lesson and were building new partnerships based on mutual respect. Any regrets? Admiral Song asked as she joined him at the viewport. Minho thought about it for a long moment. About leaving the council? No. About the war that followed? Yes. Too many beings died because their leaders were too proud to admit they were wrong. The ship's engines hummed to life, preparing to jump to fold space. Ahead lay unexplored star systems and unknown civilizations. Behind lay a galaxy that had finally learned the difference between leadership and dominance. But that's the past, Minho said. The future is out there, waiting for us to find it. The New Horizons disappeared into fold space, carrying humanity toward whatever wonders awaited among the distant stars. The galaxy they left behind was changed forever, not by force or conquest, but by the simple demonstration that there was a better way to live among the stars. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of true cooperation had begun. The war had been raging for 8 months. Half the galaxy was now under Void Reaper control, and the alien fleets were being pushed back toward the core worlds. Billions were dead. Entire civilizations had been wiped from existence. In the emergency, session of what remained of the Galactic Council, the surviving leaders gathered in desperation. Many species had lost their homeworlds. Others had seen their fleets destroyed completely. Chancellor Breck looked around the half-empty chamber. Where once thousands of representatives had sat, now only a few hundred remained. His own people, the hegemony, had lost 60% of their territory. "We must contact Earth again," he said, his voice hoarse from weeks of constant meetings. "We must offer them something they cannot refuse." Empress Vala's stone body was cracked and dim. The crystal worlds had fallen 3 weeks ago, and she was now a leader without a people. What could we possibly offer them that they don't already have? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kelvin Zhao, one of the few human scientists who had chosen to remain in council space, stepped forward. He had been working with alien researchers for 15 years and had refused to leave when the evacuation began. "You're thinking about this wrong," he said. "You're trying to bribe Earth to save you, but Earth doesn't need anything from you anymore." Commander Zeth, whose war clans were down to their last 3 battle groups, snarled in frustration. "Then what do they want?" "Respect," Dr. Zhao said simply. "For 30 years you treated humanity like dangerous children. You took our help but never valued our opinions. You used our strength but never acknowledged our intelligence." He pulled up a holographic display showing human colonies before the Exodus. "Earth offered you partnership. You demanded subjugation. Earth offered protection. You voted to cripple us. Now you want us to save you again, but you still haven't learned the lesson." The alien leaders shifted uncomfortably. They knew he was right. "So what do we do?" Chancellor Breck asked. "You apologize," Dr. Zhao said. "Not because you want something, but because you finally understand what you did wrong." The message was sent to Earth the next day. It was not a demand or a bargain. It was a simple admission of guilt, signed by every surviving member of the Council. The response came from Prime Minister John Soyoung, speaking from the hidden world of New Terra. The planet itself was a marvel, a world that had been terraformed, using technology the Council had never seen, protected by defenses that could stop entire fleets. "We have received your message," she said, standing in what appeared to be a garden overlooking a city of crystal and light. "We appreciate your honesty. However, an apology does not undo 30 years of treatment as second-class citizens." Behind her, the city stretched to the horizon, its towers reaching toward the sky. This was what humanity had built while the Council thought they were primitive miners and farmers. The Galactic Council had its chance to treat humanity as equals. You chose otherwise. Humanity will forge its own path among the stars. But then her expression softened slightly. "However, we are not without compassion. We will not stand by and watch entire species be destroyed." Hope flickered in the hearts of billions across the galaxy. "Earth will provide refugee ships for any species facing extinction. We will offer safe haven on our outer worlds for those who have nowhere else to go. But we will not fight your war for you." The transmission continued with specific details. Human ships would arrive at designated coordinates to evacuate endangered populations. Medical supplies would be provided to treat the wounded. Food and water would be distributed to refugee camps. But no weapons, no military assistance, no human fleets charging to the rescue. The galaxy must learn to defend itself, Prime Minister John concluded. Earth will not be your eternal guardians. The refugee operation began immediately. Massive human ships, each capable of carrying millions of beings, appeared throughout the war zone. They moved through Reaper-controlled space as if the machines couldn't see them, collecting survivors and ferrying them to safety. Captain Lim Jae-hyun commanded one of the refugee ships, the Sanctuary. His vessel was larger than most space stations, equipped with artificial gravity, medical facilities, and living quarters for 3 million beings. "Sir," his navigator reported, "we're approaching the Vega system. The Reapers have been attacking the remaining colonies there." "Take us in," Jae-hyun ordered. "Full stealth mode." The Sanctuary slipped past Reaper patrol ships like a ghost. The machine vessels, with all their advanced sensors, never detected the human ship's presence. Within hours, The remaining 2 million survivors from Vega's colonies were aboard, and the ship was heading for the safety of human space. Similar operations played out across the galaxy. Human ships rescued beings from a dozen species, offering them new homes on worlds that had been prepared for exactly this purpose. But the military situation continued to deteriorate. Without human weapons and tactics, the alien fleets were no match for the Void Reapers. System after system fell to the machines. Admiral Korth led the final defense of the core worlds from his command ship, Pride of Rigel. His fleet was the largest remaining force in the galaxy. 2,000 ships from 40 different species, all that stood between the Reapers and the heart of galactic civilization. All ships prepare for final engagement, he transmitted across the fleet. Today we make our stand. The battle was fierce but hopeless. The Reapers had learned from 8 months of warfare, adapting their tactics to counter every strategy the aliens tried. Within hours, Admiral Korth's fleet was reduced to scattered survivors fleeing toward the inner systems. But something unexpected happened. As the Reapers pressed their advantage, they began to encounter problems. Their ships started malfunctioning. Their weapons lost power, their coordination broke down. What's happening? Commander Zeth demanded from his bridge as he watched Reaper ships suddenly stop fighting and drift helplessly in space. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Na Sungwa's voice echoed across all galactic frequencies. The Void Reapers are machines, she explained. Very advanced machines, but machines nonetheless. For the past 30 years, humanity has been developing ways to defeat them, not with bigger guns or stronger shields, but with viruses. The revelation was staggering. While the Council thought humans were building simple computers, they had been creating the most sophisticated cyber warfare systems in the galaxy. Every piece of human technology that the Reapers have captured over the past 8 months contained hidden programs. Viruses designed specifically to target their core systems. The more they conquered, the more infected they became. Across the galaxy, Reaper fleets began shutting down. The machines that had seemed unstoppable were falling victim to weapons they couldn't even detect. This is humanity's final gift to the galaxy, Dr. Na continued. Not because you deserve it, but because extinction helps no one. Within days, the Void Reaper invasion collapsed. The surviving machines retreated to the dark spaces between galaxies, their systems too damaged to continue the war. The galaxy was saved, but at an enormous cost. Trillions were dead. Hundreds of worlds lay in ruins. The great galactic civilization was a shadow of its former self, and through it all, humanity had remained apart, helping only when extinction threatened, never again taking the role of the galaxy's protectors. The Council had learned the price of treating allies as servants. The lesson had cost them everything. 3 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy was slowly adjusting to life without human help, though not very well. Trade routes were less safe. Space stations ran on backup power. Medical centers struggled without human doctors and their advanced equipment. Then the Void Reapers came. Admiral Korth was reviewing patrol reports when his communications officer burst into his command center. The young alien's face was pale with fear. "Sir, we have incoming ships at the outer rim, hundreds of them." Korth looked at the tactical display and felt his blood turn cold. The ships were black as space itself, angular and deadly. Each one was the size of a battle cruiser, but they moved like fighters, Void Reapers, he whispered. The Void Reapers were an ancient enemy, machines that had been sleeping in the dark spaces between galaxies for millions of years. Every few thousand years they would wake up, attack the rim worlds, then disappear. Again. The last time they came, it took the combined fleets of 50 species to drive them back. "Send emergency signals to all Council fleets," Korth ordered. "Full mobilization. This is not a drill." Within hours, the largest space battle in galactic history began. Thousands of alien ships rushed to meet the Reaper invasion. The Council's best admirals led the charge, confident in their advanced weapons and superior numbers. They were wrong. The Void Reapers tore through the alien fleets like paper. Their weapons cut through the strongest shields. Their armor shrugged, off the most powerful missiles. Worse, they seemed to learn from each battle, adapting their tactics to counter every strategy the aliens tried. Chancellor Breck watched in horror as his flagship's main guns fired uselessly at a Reaper destroyer. The machine ship didn't even slow down as it returned fire, cutting his vessel in half with a beam of pure energy. "Fall back," he screamed into his communicator. "All ships, fall back." But there was nowhere to run. The Reapers were everywhere, moving faster than any ship the Council had ever built. In 6 hours, they destroyed over half the defending fleet and began advancing toward the inner systems. On the Council station, emergency meetings ran around the clock. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together, sharing weapons and tactics. Nothing made any difference. "We need the humans," Empress Vala said during one desperate session. Her stone body was cracked from stress. "They always found ways to fight enemies we couldn't handle." "The humans are gone," Commander Zeth replied. His war clan had lost 2/3 of their fleet in the first battle. "We voted to restrict them. Remember? They left us. Then we contact them," Chancellor Breck insisted. "We ask them to come back. We offer them anything they want." The message was sent to Earth through every available channel. The response came 12 hours later, broadcast across all galactic frequencies so everyone could hear it. Admiral Song Minji appeared on screens throughout Council space. She stood on the bridge of a ship unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. It was massive, sleek, and hummed with barely contained power. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said with a slight smile. "We received your request for assistance." Hope flared across the galaxy. The humans were going to help. They always helped. After careful consideration, we must decline. The hope died. "You see," Admiral Song continued, 3 months ago you decided that humanity was too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology. You voted to limit our development. You chose to treat us as children who needed constant supervision." Behind her, the bridge crew worked at stations filled with displays and controls that looked decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. The Council made its choice. Humanity is no longer your shield. The transmission ended, but within minutes another signal began broadcasting. This time it was Dr. Na Seungwa, speaking from what appeared to be a massive research facility. "For 30 years, she began, humanity has been preparing for this day. While you thought we were building simple cargo ships, we were developing fold space technology that could move fleets across the galaxy in minutes. While you thought our weapons were primitive, we were creating energy systems that could power entire planets." Images began appearing on screens throughout the galaxy. Human ships that dwarfed anything the Council had built. Weapons that could crack moons. Shields that could stop starfire. Most importantly, we were studying the Void Reapers. Every time they attacked, human scientists analyzed their technology. We learned their weaknesses. We developed specific countermeasures. The revelation hit the galaxy like a shockwave. Humanity had been ready for the Reapers all along. The Council forbade us from researching dangerous technologies. The same technologies that could have saved you from this invasion. You chose to keep us weak rather than face the truth. That humanity was never the inferior species you wanted us to be. More images appeared. Human research stations hidden in asteroid fields. Weapons testing facilities in deep space. A massive shipyard that made the one at Kepler 442b look like a toy. Dr. Na's voice grew colder. "You wanted to control us because you were afraid of what we might become. Now you know. We became everything you feared and more." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. On the rim worlds, the Void Reapers continued their advance. Without human intervention, alien fleets fell back system by system. Billions of beings fled their homes, crowding onto refugee ships that headed for the inner systems. President Lee Ji-hoo received hourly reports on the invasion from his command center on Earth. The planet's defenses were more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever imagined, but the Reapers would never reach them. Earth was hidden behind layers of technology that made it invisible to even the most advanced sensors. "Sir," his aide reported, "the hegemony is offering us a permanent seat on the Council with full voting rights. The Crystal Worlds are offering to share their energy technology. The war clans want to form a military alliance. Too little, too late, Jihu replied. He was watching tactical displays that showed the real situation across the galaxy. The Reapers were winning, but they were also revealing their true numbers and capabilities. Information that humanity had been collecting for decades. What about the human prisoners they're holding? Asked General Park Soman. During the evacuation, some humans had been detained by alien governments who thought they could force Earth to negotiate. Captain Yoon is handling that, Jihu replied with a slight smile. Captain Yoon Min-seok led a small fleet of stealth ships through Reaper-controlled space. His target was a prison station where 37 humans were being held by the hegemony. The aliens had thought the prisoners might be useful bargaining chips. They were wrong. The rescue ships appeared without warning, their stealth systems so advanced that the Reapers never detected them. In 15 minutes, all the prisoners were free, and the rescue fleet had vanished back into fold space. It was the only military action humanity took during the entire invasion. As the 4th month of the war began, alien casualties mounted into the billions. Entire species faced extinction. The great galactic civilization that had lasted for millions of years was crumbling under the Reaper assault, and humanity watched from their hidden worlds, safe behind defenses the galaxy had never imagined possible. The Council had chosen to treat them as children. Now they would face the consequences as adults. Part 2. The Exodus Protocol President Lee Jihu sat in his office deep beneath the surface of Earth. The room had no windows, but screens on every wall showed different parts of the planet and the space around it. Red lights flashed on most of the displays. His assistant rushed in carrying a tablet. "Sir, Ambassador Minho's message came through 5 minutes ago. The withdrawal is official." Jihu nodded slowly. He had been expecting this day for years. "Send the code to General Park." The code was simple. Exodus now. Across the planet, in hidden military bases and secret research centers, people had been waiting for those 2 words. General Park Soman received the message in her command center in the mountains of Korea. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and her voice could cut through steel. "All stations, this is command. Begin Exodus protocol immediately. All human personnel have 72 hours to reach extraction points." The response was instant. In space stations orbiting distant stars, human workers stopped what they were doing and began packing. On colony worlds hundreds of light years away, families gathered their most important belongings. In research labs and mining operations, scientists and engineers started destroying anything they could not take with them. Dr. Kim Taewon was working late in his laboratory on Kepler Station when the message arrived. He looked at the alien scientists around him, beings he had worked with for 15 years. They had no idea what was about to happen. "I have to go," he told them simply. His alien colleagues looked confused. Dr. Vex, a tall being with tentacles instead of arms, tilted his head. "Go where? Your shift does not end for 3 hours. "Home," Taewon said. He began gathering his personal research files. "Earth is calling us home." Within hours, the first human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy. But these were not the simple cargo vessels and small warships that aliens were used to seeing. These ships were massive, sleek, and moved through space in ways that should have been impossible. Commander Choi Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the evacuation ship New Dawn as it emerged from fold space near the human colony on Rigel Prime. The ship was 3 kilometers long and could carry 50,000 people. More importantly, it used technology that the Galactic Council had never seen before. "Sir," his navigator reported, "the colony is ready for pickup. All 23,000 residents are at the landing sites." "Good. Begin loading immediately. We have 6 more stops to make today." On the planet below, families climbed aboard transport shuttles with whatever they could carry. Children pressed their faces against windows, looking at the homes they would never see again. Adults tried to stay calm, but everyone knew this was the end of an era. The aliens who lived alongside humans watched in growing confusion and alarm. Governor Malthan of Rigel Prime tried to contact the human colonial administrator, but got no response. The humans were simply packing up and leaving without explanation. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On the mining world of Titans, REST engineer Lim Jae-hyun supervised the dismantling of the massive fusion reactors that powered the operation. Every piece of human technology was loaded onto cargo ships. "What about the alien workers?" asked his assistant. "Leave them enough equipment to keep the lights on," Jae-hyun replied. "But all the advanced systems come with us." The aliens, who had worked alongside humans for decades, suddenly found themselves looking at empty spaces where sophisticated machines used to be. The humans had taken everything: computers, weapons, medical equipment, even the coffee makers from the break rooms. The most shocking evacuation happened at the orbital shipyards around Kepler 442b. The facility was the size of a small moon, where human engineers built ships not just for Earth, but for dozens of alien species. Admiral Song Minji arrived with a fleet of massive transport ships to oversee the operation. "Strip everything," she ordered. "Every tool, every blueprint, every scrap of metal. If we built it, we take it with us." The shipyard had been humanity's pride for 20 years. Aliens came from across the galaxy to commission human-built vessels because they were faster, stronger, and more reliable than anything else available. Now, piece by piece, the entire facility was being loaded onto transport ships. Alien officials tried to intervene. Admiral Korth of the Hegemony Fleet arrived with 12 warships, demanding that the humans stop. "This facility was built under galactic treaty," he transmitted to Admiral Song. "You cannot simply take it apart." Song's response was calm but firm. "Check the treaty again, Admiral. Humanity built this with our own materials, our own designs, our own labor. We are taking only what belongs to us." The alien admiral was confused. How could the humans dismantle such a massive structure so quickly? The answer was fold space technology, the same mysterious science that allowed human ships to appear anywhere in the galaxy almost instantly. Dr. Na Seunghwa worked frantically in her communication center on Luna Base. She was coordinating the evacuation of over 200 human settlements across the galaxy, and every minute counted. "New Sol is complete," reported one of her assistants. "All 47,000 residents are aboard evacuation ships." "Excellent. What about the research station on Vega 7th? Dr. Park is finishing the data wipe now. They should be ready for pickup in 6 hours. The data wipe was crucial. Humanity had been secretly developing advanced technologies for decades, sharing only the basic versions with the galactic community. Now they were making sure none of their real secrets fell into alien hands. On distant worlds, human scientists worked through the night to destroy research that could have advanced galactic civilization by centuries. But Earth had made its choice. If the galaxy wanted to treat humans as children, then the galaxy could solve its own problems. The evacuation was not just about people and equipment. Captain Yoon Min-seok led special teams that rescued human prisoners from alien jails, human slaves from illegal operations, and human children from adoption centers where they had been placed with alien families. "Every human comes home," was the order from Earth. "No one gets left behind." By the end of the first day, over 3 million humans had vanished from their homes across the galaxy. Alien governments tried to track the evacuation ships, but the ER vessels moved through fold space in patterns that made no sense. They would appear in one system, collect people and equipment, then disappear before any alien fleet could respond. The aliens began to panic. They had always assumed humans were technologically inferior. The ships they had seen were simple and slow. The weapons were basic. The computers were primitive. Now they realized it had all been an act. Chancellor Breck called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "How can they move entire populations without us detecting them?" Nobody had an answer. The human technology was decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. Prime Minister John Seo-young watched the evacuation reports from her office on New Terra, humanity's secret fortress world. The planet had been hidden from galactic surveys for 30 years, slowly growing into a new center of human civilization. "How many more to go?" she asked her aide. 43 colonies remaining. All military installations are already clear." Seo-young smiled. The Galactic Council thought they were dealing with a species of primitive fighters and clever engineers. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this day since their first contact with alien life. As the second day began, the true scale of human departure became clear. Industries that had depended on human workers ground to a halt. Space stations that relied on human-built systems began failing. Trade routes protected by human patrol ships suddenly became dangerous. The galaxy was learning what it meant to live without humanity. And this was only the beginning. The giant space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than any city on Earth. Inside its metal walls, beings from across the galaxy came together to make decisions that affected billions of lives. Ambassador. Kang Minho walked slowly down the long corridor toward the main meeting hall. His black suit was clean and pressed, but his face showed the weight of 30 years fighting for his people. Behind him, Dr. Yoon Hana carried a thick folder filled with papers that nobody would read. They have already decided, Hana said quietly. Her voice was tired. The vote happened before we even got here. Minho nodded but said nothing. He had learned long ago that the Galactic Council did not really care what humans thought. They listened politely, then did whatever they wanted. The meeting hall was enormous. Thousands of alien beings sat in floating chairs arranged in a perfect circle. At the center stood a small platform where speakers could address the council. The air smelled strange, like metal and ozone and things that had never lived on Earth. Minho looked around at the familiar faces. There was Chancellor Breck, from the hegemony with his blue skin and 4 arms. Empress Vala from the Crystal World sat nearby, her body made of living stone. Commander Zeth from the War Clans wore his battle armor even here in the peaceful hall. All of them were older than humanity's entire space program. All of them thought humans were just children playing with toys. The council will now hear from Earth's representative, announced the speaker, a tall being whose species Minho had never learned the name of. Minho stepped onto the platform. The lights focused on him, making everything else fade into shadow. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him, waiting. Honored members of the council, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. For 30 years, humanity has been part of this great alliance. We have fought in your wars. We have shared our discoveries. We have died defending worlds that were not our own. Some of the aliens shifted in their seats. They knew this speech was not going to be a simple thank you. When the darkness came to the outer systems, human ships were first to respond. When the plague hit Vega Colony, human doctors found the cure. When pirates attacked the trade routes, human marines cleared them out. Minho paused and looked around the hall. Most of the aliens were not even paying attention. Some were reading other documents, others were talking quietly to their assistants. But every time we ask for something in return, you vote against us. Every time we propose a new idea, you call it dangerous. Every time we try to grow, you tell us to slow down. Now he had their attention. Chancellor Breck leaned forward in his chair. Today you want to pass the Developmental Restrictions Act. You want to limit how fast humanity can advance. You want to control what we can research and what we can build. The murmurs around the hall grew louder. Some of the aliens looked uncomfortable. You say this is for galactic stability. You say this is to prevent conflict, but we know the truth. You are afraid of us. The hall erupted in angry voices. Several aliens stood up and started shouting. The speaker had to use his sound amplifier to restore order. Ambassador Minho. Chancellor Breck's voice boomed across the hall. Humanity is young. Your species learns quickly, but wisdom takes time. These restrictions are for your own good. Our own good? Minho laughed, but there was no humor in it. You have been saying that for 30 years. When will we be old enough? When will we be wise enough? When will you treat us as equals instead of pets? Empress Vala's stone body glowed brighter as she spoke. The other species had millions of years to develop. You have had barely 10,000. You must be patient. Patient? Minho's voice grew harder. We were patient when you gave the best trading routes to your friends. We were patient when you ignored our warnings about the darkness. We were patient when you took credit for our inventions. Dr. Hana watched from the observation deck above. She had seen this coming for months. The humans had tried everything to work within the system. They had followed every rule, filled out every form, attended every meeting. None of it mattered. "The vote will now proceed," announced the speaker. "All in favor of the Developmental Restrictions Act?" Lights began appearing throughout the hall as the aliens cast their votes. Blue lights meant yes. Red lights meant no. The counting system was fast and efficient. Minho watched as blue light after blue light appeared. The hegemony voted yes. The crystal worlds voted yes. The war clans voted yes. Species he had never heard of voted yes. Species that owed their lives to human sacrifice voted yes. 847 votes in favor, the speaker announced. 1 vote against, the measure passes. The hall filled with satisfied murmurs. Another problem solved. Another young species put in its place. Minho stood quietly on the platform as the noise died down. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. Dr. Hana recognized it immediately. It was a recording transmitter that would send his words directly to Earth. "I have a message for the Galactic Council," Minho said. His voice was calm now, almost gentle, and for the billions of beings who think they can tell humanity what we can and cannot become. The hall grew quiet. Something in his tone made even the most arrogant aliens pay attention. 30 years ago, humanity came to you with open hands and hopeful hearts. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We wanted to learn from you and grow alongside you. He paused and looked directly at Chancellor Breck. Instead, you treated us like dangerous children who needed constant supervision. You took our gifts and gave us nothing in return. You used our strength to solve your problems, then told us we were too weak to make our own decisions. The transmitter in his hand began glowing, showing that Earth was receiving his words. Today you have voted to chain us down. You have decided that humanity will never be allowed to reach its full potential. You have chosen to make us your servants forever. Minho smiled, and for the first time in 30 years, it was a real smile. So, we choose to leave. The words hit the hall like a bomb. Aliens jumped to their feet. Voices rose in shock and anger. No species had ever left the Council voluntarily. It was unthinkable. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. We renounce all treaties, all agreements, and all obligations. We will no longer send our ships to fight your wars, or our scientists to solve your problems. Chancellor Breck was shouting something, but Minho could not hear him over the chaos. Humanity chooses to walk alone among the stars. We will find our own path and make our own destiny. The transmitter went dark. The message was sent. There was no taking it back now. Dr. Hana smiled as she watched the panic spread through the hall. After 30 years of being ignored, dismissed, and controlled, humanity had finally found its voice, and the galaxy would never be the same.